Whenever you walk up to go and ride a coaster, undoubtedly the first thing you see is the color of the coaster. Now, I'm not saying this makes or breaks a ride experience, but it will leave somewhat of a first impression. Most of the time you can't really get a bad impression from a coaster, but you can get a good impression on how cool that coaster looks. In today's video, you're going to be scavenging coasters all across planet Earth to answer the question, what is the best looking coaster? Now, you can't really judge them. This video is all about color, and color is completely subjective. I mean, we all have conflicting favorite colors, so it would be hard to just name coasters, right? Well, kind of. The list that me and Flashwing put together covers really everything in the entire spectrum and has a strong focus on multicolored track, which will become blatantly obvious as the video progresses. So starting off our list is none other than Fantasia Special. This is a more unknown aero looper that is in South Korea. It went SBNO during COVID, so that's unfortunate. Now when this coaster opened, it had a basic color scheme. It was red and white and looked a lot like Viper when it was in its prime. Now though, it looks super cool. They painted each part of this coaster a different color, so there's red, green, and blue. There's also a triple coaster which is unique in and of itself. Definitely an interesting aero looper and a really cool triple color palette. Next up is another multicolored track, and this is probably the first coaster that comes to mind when you think of the best colored coasters. This is Shambhala at Port Aventura. Besides being one of the best B&M hypers in the world, this coaster has an absolutely amazing color scheme. The track is a combination of white and blue with gray supports. It looks really cool. The multicolored track just looks perfect, and the best part about it is that the cross ties are blue too, and it just completes the whole package. And while we are on the topic of Port Aventura, special shout out to DragonCon because it also has multicolored track with the red beam and the gray outer bit. It doesn't look that cool, but it's cool enough to deserve a mention. Now let's look at a coaster with a non-multicolored track. Valkyrie and Draken are both great examples of amazing B&M dive coasters. I lump these two together because they are both gold B&M dive coasters. Valkyrie is probably more well known and is definitely one of the top B&M dive coasters in the world. The gold track with the white supports just look amazing and it's super photogenic. Draken is also a gold B&M dive coaster, but this one has brownish supports. Honestly, with good lighting and some changes to filters, this coaster probably makes some of the best pictures on the planet. It's also a clone of Griffin with better theming, so props to it there. Another B&M dive coaster that has a super quirky color scheme is Flying Apsaras in Western regions. Now I have to admit, when I first found out about this coaster, I thought the color scheme was super lame. However, this has grown on me and I low-key like how the purple and blue meshes with each other, and it's definitely one of the most interesting color schemes out there for sure. On the topic of B&M, there are also some B&M wing coasters that look absolutely stunning. The first that comes to mind is Da Vinci. This dark blue B&M track with light gray supports is not a very out-of-the-world color palette, but for some reason it looks so cool. A different B&M wing coaster that has a multicolored track is Gatekeeper. Of course, this coaster is going to make this list. It's the first thing that greets you when you walk into Cedar Point, and beyond the amazing keyholes that they made, the multicolored track just adds that extra bit. The combination of light blue and a darker blue with white supports just takes an already guaranteed good color scheme and adds the extra spice to it. And while we're on the topic of B&M wing coasters, there are a lot of good ones with amazing color schemes. Low-key, I'm a sucker for Parrot Coaster and the combination of brown track and green supports, even if it is used pretty much everywhere. That's enough about B&Ms, we'll talk about them later. Let's talk about some other coasters with amazing color schemes. RMC makes some of the best coasters in the world, but are they well-colored coasters? Well, you would think they aren't. Since they are hybrid coasters, it would be hard to make them look cool, but you would be wrong. A new RMC that opened in 2023, Air Force One, has one of the best color palettes in the world. Now it kinda helps that this coaster is all steel and not a hybrid, so the supports are all white. However, it does still look like wood and it is really cool. This is themed to America, and one track is red and one track is blue, and the other supports are white, so it looks pretty cool. There are other RMC coasters with multicolored track. There's Twisted Colossus, which probably looks sick on opening day and deserves a spot on this list. I have to say though, these colors have faded a lot and they kind of suck right now. This coaster and Goliath both really need a repaint. There's also Joker at Discovery Kingdom. The green and purple look cool, but it doesn't have white supports that make the colors pop, and that's why Air Force One is the best and Twisted Colossus is almost as good. Before we continue, here is a quick reminder to join the Discord. I love talking to all of you guys, and some of you even help me brainstorm good coasters for this list, so link is in the description, go right now. All the coasters are just solid colors. Both the track and the supports are the same. Now in some cases this can be a really good thing, and we're going to take a look at this. Ejidaika is an all-black SNS 40 coaster. Now for some reason, it just looks super cool. I think painting it all black makes it look more intimidating than something like Dynaconda and X2. Also, the trains with the colored pieces of fiberglass add the color that the track is lacking. The combination of this color scheme with the trains add a whole lot, and I think this is one of the best coasters with a plain color palette. You can kind of add a velocicoaster in here as well for the same exact reasons. If you want to look at another coaster with a relatively plain color palette that's not black, Conda is a great example. The dark green track with barked colored supports actually makes it look like a snake, and it does a lot with little variation in color. Going back to more fun coasters, we have the Dragon at Ocean Park in Hong Kong. If you guys remember, I was obsessing over this coaster's color scheme in the video I made about Aero Loopers. This coaster has one of the most fun color palettes out there. There's pink supports, green cross ties, yellow track, and blue catwalks, along with flame decals going up on the side of the supports. If you look at this coaster, most people will say it looks like Buzz Lightyear, and it really does. I think it looks a lot like the Blast X Spectre skin from Valorant, but to each their own. Anyways, the fact that each part of this coaster is painted differently is crazy. I find it so funny that the catwalks are painted blue. Like, was that really necessary? Anyways, it's fun, and that's what matters. Let's talk about some other coasters before we inevitably go back to B&Ms. Lost Gravity at Wallaby Holland has this weird multicolor track that switches from black to yellow. I think it looks pretty cool, but then again it looks like a bee, and yellow isn't my favorite color ever. A coaster by Intamin, which I believe is the first on this list and might be the last. Accelerator has an amazing color scheme. Now I'm talking about the new color scheme, not the old one. A lot of people really like the old color scheme, but I thought it was good, not great. I really dig the new colors and how it slowly gradients the colors of a fire. I just wish it was open so I could actually ride it. One last random coaster we have is Beyond the Clouds. This is a mock launch coaster in China that actually looks to have a half decent layout. The light blue track just pops, and it's complemented by some cool gray supports. I know it's kinda like Hakuge, but mock deserves at least one mention in this video. Okay, let's tackle a couple of defunct coasters. I think the Dragon was the only defunct coaster that we have talked about so far in this video, but I got a couple of good ones in mind. First off is Batman and Robin the Chiller. This was a premier shuttle loop that had two sides painted two different colors. To be honest, I don't like the red that much, but the navy blue looks really good. That and any multicolored track just rubs off really well. Another coaster, or like coasters, that kinda has a similar style to Batman and Robin is Dueling Dragons, the original one. This dueling B&M invert, or more like a pair of B&M inverts, were one of the best inverts in the world at their time in Islands of Adventure. When they were dueling, it was insane, but most of the time they had to stop doing so. Anyways, the light blue meshed with the red pretty well, and it was just a good color palette in general. And while we were kind of on the topic, you can throw in the other Dueling Dragons, but personally I think the orange and green don't look nice together. However, I find it funny how some supports are multicolored and stuff like that. Now we're going to end off our list talking about 4 or 5 B&Ms. I feel like that's one theme consistent with B&Ms. They just have amazing colors. I don't know if it's because of their massive track, because color palettes are Park's decision. Maybe Park is just like, I'm spending way too much money on a coaster, so I might as well make it really look cool. I have no idea, but B&Ms just have the best color palettes, period. I don't know how we made it this whole video without mentioning Fury 325. This is a beast of the coaster, and a light blue and green just set up the whole thing perfectly. Definitely has some of the best colors in the world, but I still think Shambhala's is better. On the note of hypers, Mako at SeaWorld Orlando has an actually amazing color scheme. The rich purple tie with the blue supports just tops off this hyper and makes it an absolute beauty to both ride and look at. We have a couple more B&Ms before we close out this video, because why the hell not? I'll try to be a little faster though. We have Dr. Diabolicals. This red track looks really well with the gray, but I don't really like the yellow supports. Hot Wheels in India kinda looks like the Superman floorless coasters, but it just looks more pristine and precise in a way. Maybe it's just me though. There's Monster at Walligator. This invert is relatively basic, but I added it on here because there's a pink stripe in the top of the track that's super unconventional. Not my favorite color palette, but definitely interesting. And last but not least is Talon. This orange and yellowish invert is really cool, and it's just an infinitely better version of Silver Bullet, and that's all I really gotta say. So that's all for today's video, guys. I feel like I can go on forever and name just a bunch of blue coasters that look really cool. For example, Storm Coaster. But we have to close the video now. Anyways, let me know if you agree with my decisions in the comment section down below, or even better, say it to my face in our Discord server, link in the description by the way. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.